Okay, Nikolai, we are back. Top of mind topic for today in terms of the Matrix. And this we were just referencing literally 30 seconds ago. And I was like, no, man, we got to get this on tape. We need to commit this to the internet. For people out there that get different opportunities presented to themselves, because we all go through it, right? Like we all, every single day, every minute, there is an opportunity. And so, how do we know when is this an opportunity that Matrix is like literally handing us our dreams, our goals, our life kind of on a silver platter, like, hey, just do this and life will be great. And when is Matrix actually, quote unquote, fucking with us and giving us the poison pill and being like, hey, are you gonna be Eve in the Garden of Eden? Here's a little apple. Why don't you have a little taste and just, sort of mess up your life? And how do we discern? Well, what is Matrix being a benevolent energy, if that's a word we can use, or when it's being sort of a sneaky, I don't know if we would say sinister energy, but like it's testing us in some fashion to see if we will pass whatever this test is. And so, can you kind of speak about that? Because, like I said, top of mind, and I think that's Matrix telling us this is the rabbit hole to go down. So,
Yeah, definitely. And hi, everyone. And it's funny. I've been sensing that today's episode might touch on karma, and here we are. The
here,
question you're asking:
here we are. Karma is
opportunities
back.
versus tests. So I'd start with opportunities, but actually flip it with tests and then go to opportunities. And so the reason I brought up the term karma and what you're referring to when is the matrix testing us,
Yeah.
and that's where it is critical and important to understand what is karma and what it means. And we've briefly touched on this multiple times throughout every episode, so now we can summarize a bunch of things we mentioned about karma. A soul comes into the body and it wants to evolve, it wants to develop new qualities. And one of the ways it develops new qualities is by working through karma. And karma is literally learning to interact with new types of energies that the soul hasn't interacted with in the past, or has interacted in the past with, but haven't figured out how to do it harmoniously. And the easiest practical way to describe karmic situations or scenarios to people, anytime anyone gets strongly triggered or emotionally triggered, 80% chance that's karma, meaning that is the energy that soul in that body is learning to interact with. Wherever there is a strong reaction or emotion, and usually when we say triggered in our world or in our society, there are low vibration feelings or emotions associated with that. And that would be anger, guilt, shame, jealousy, and the list goes on. And in reality, if we look at the low vibration feelings, all of them are permutations of anger. So if we actually look at karma from a standpoint of view of physics or quantum physics, from a standpoint of view of energy, energy flows through this body, and this body has energetic channels. They kind of look like veins, but they're because everything is fractal, so energy flows kind of in a more or less similar way. There are a lot of little channels through which the energy flows through this body, and karma is where the channels are not clear or twisted or blocked or etc. It's like almost having like plaque or whatever it's called in the vein where the body,
Like a clot almost.
a clot. Yeah, exactly. Like a clot in a vein, and the blood is not fully flowing. So the same thing with karma. So the reason we experience anger is because the energy is trying to go there and it's not going through, and there is this electric shock or energetic shock or short circuit, and that it comes out as anger or different flavors of anger. So, for example, shame or guilt is anger directed at self. But at the end of the day, if we look at the deepest fundamental level, it is still anger. So all of those low vibration uh, feelings and emotions are just different permutations of anger. So
And
coming back to go ahead.
no, I was just thinking, where would envy fit in there? Would that be, is that a
Yeah,
permutation
so
of anger as well?
envy, and I guess it's a softer version of jealousy. So that's anger towards towards your situation or external world or towards of your reality, because
Yeah.
you're getting upset, right, at where you are, and you're not happy with that. So it's interesting if you take every feeling emotion, like you can take there's a wheel of feelings or emotions, I think it's called, from calm.com, the app that does meditations. It's a pretty cool one. And if you go through all the low vibration ones or so-called negative feelings, emotions, you'll be able uh, to see how it's anger just directed at different things in your world, either yourself or something around you.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's basically, so on an energetic level, it's anger charge in a whatever flavor of the expression, and so coming back to karma, that is a practical way to know you're experiencing a karmic situation. So I think, like, we've chatted in your scenario multiple times. Like, for example, if I would bring up, like when you have a few people who are like, or competitors stealing knowledge, and it's
Yeah.
just not just your situation. There's like many entrepreneurs and etc. And in your situation, you would go into this like, oh, fuck this person. It's like, and so there is anger expressed towards that person, right?
Yeah.
And that's an indication that we're learning to work with interacting with a specific type of energy. So where I'm going with this, the reason this is important is by navigating those situations and learning how to interact harmoniously, we evolve and we expand and we become more powerful, because now we can once we've learned how to interact with that energy, now we know how to interact with uh, higher percentage of the world, because when something is presented to us, we know how to use that constructively rather than destructively, and see how there's this fine line of test versus opportunity. So in the beginning, it is a test and could be perceived as a test. But as we've learned how to interact with someone, something harmoniously, now it's an opportunity. And to give you an example from my karma, one of my karmic lessons in this life was about learning not to break rules. And fuck, I loved breaking rules, and I was good at it. And I prided myself on that, because when you're an entrepreneur, and especially you're building a business that is disrupting an industry, it's almost, I felt like I had to break rules. And we always pushed the limits, and we've had bunch of regulatory issues consistently, and I almost felt like I felt proud. I'm pushing the limits. But in
Yeah.
reality, Matrix kept creating those situations for me to learn not to break rules, to do everything harmoniously with the world. Whereas the way I did it, I went and broke the rules and then figured out, because litigators came, I was like, okay, here I broke the rules. I'm sorry, I will not break them again. Versus I was like, hey guys, I'm planning to do this. Why don't we sit and collaborate together and find a way? Because at the end of the day, we always found the way. And because laws and rules, if 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 you understand them well and deeply, and you interact with people who enforce them, and you're open and you're constructive, they'll even help you. They'll be like, hey, if you can just change this, then you're not breaking any rules. It's like much simpler than it all seems. But for me, because I came with this karma, right? And I needed to learn how to interact with this. I was like, I'm gonna break them. And then I'm gonna sit down with them at the table and figure out how not to break them. And at the end of the day, it always worked out, but the pattern kept repeating. So as I've learned to interact with this whole concept that there are rules, and rules exist for a reason, and rules exist in all shapes and forms. There's universal laws; those are the most important ones. Then there are laws, right, that society created. Then there are traditions. There are rules of a community, and the list goes on. They exist so it is easier for us to coexist and co-create harmoniously without turning everything into chaos and mess. So I needed to learn how to interact with that energy. So where I'm going with this, once I've learned, that becomes a superpower and that becomes an opportunity. And I'll give you real life examples from the past week how that became a superpower. So once in my scenario with that karma, I learned how to interact with that energy harmoniously. Then the superpowers that activate is that I can reach any type of agreement with anyone and everyone. People open up deeply to me without me asking anything. And also, the way it also shows up in the matrix is I get, well, let's say if I want to buy something, I get the best price without even asking for it. That's how the matrix responds because it creates basically fair energetic exchange because I'm in harmony with the rules of the environment. So, example from last week, which was very strange to me. I'm like, I go to this restaurant. We had a family dinner there, and we didn't have cash to give a tip, and the bill was like significant enough where we wanted to leave a nice tip. And the nearby bank machine was broken, and I was like, okay, whatever. So I come back to that restaurant a month later. I have once again, I like my favorite, the Georgian restaurant that we went to. It's
Oh
like one
yeah.
of my favorite restaurants. The food is spectacular, service is spectacular. So I'm again like trying to give them a tip. Now I have cash and like I have great experience, great lunch. I pull out, I have only 50, and they're like, sorry, we can't break it up. It's perfectly fine. We're happy to have you. Thank you for coming, etc. So I was like, okay, that's weird. 2 days later, I go to another favorite seafood restaurant. I sit down. I have this spectacular fresh fish and etc. And I was like, can I leave a tip on the card? They're like, no, only cash. I was like, oh, I have cash. I pull out 50. I was like, he's like, oh, it's such a headache to break it up. Don't worry. I don't need a tip. Thank you for coming. It's like, what the fuck is going on? I can't. I'm like, I'm really trying to give people tips, right?
Yeah.
I go to a dentist. When was that? On Monday, for the hygiene, the cleaning, and etc. Right? Uh, Excellent service, spectacular, just like even better than in Canada. And it was like this amazing dentist does the cleaning, and then I was like, how much is it? And she's like, oh, it's 40. And I was like, can I pay with a card? And she's like, no. I pull out, I have the same 50. And I was like, here's the 50. She gives me change of 20. And I was like, that's too much. You said it's 40. It's like, oh, your teeth are beautiful, perfect, white. Don't worry about it. It's like, no, I'll just take 50. It's okay, take 50. She's like, no, no, no. There's no way. 20 is yours. Something next time, you'll give me more. I was like, what is going? It's almost like started getting like a little bit frustrating. I cannot leave tips. I cannot pay proper amount. People are just literally handing me money. So, and that's coming back to your question. Where's the test to where's the opportunity? So in the beginning, it was a lot of tests. And I'll give you real examples of tests. Like I would be in the store and they basically scan all the stuff. And I was like, this seems to be low. I start checking the bill and they missed something. And the old version of me would be like, ha, their problem, you know? I would just walk away. And
Yeah.
here I'd be like, I'm sorry, you missed this. And as a result, you're missing a bunch of money on the bill. And of course, it's going to be taken off a poor cashier who is already like not making a lot of money here in Montenegro, right? And that happened probably over the past year, probably 10 times. And every time in the beginning, I would be like, ha. And I'd be like, just starting to walk away. I was like, no, I know I'm learning. That's my karma. I'm learning how to interact harmoniously with the environment. I was like, excuse me, you missed this. You haven't charged me. And it would go as far as I remember I got into this arguing match that they undercharged me. and and then my math was bad. I completely messed up the math, but I was like so convinced that I underpaid. And then they actually had to do the math for me. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry for causing the trouble. Okay, cool. So, and this is the example where it seems like an opportunity, but everyone knows it's not. Like the example you brought up today, it's kind of like what do they call it? The wolf in the sheep's skin, right?
Yeah.
Because there's something off about it. Because everybody deep inside has a real, you could call it moral compass, but I wouldn't call it a moral compass. People know what's right and what's not, what's fair and what's not, right? And when we lean into being fair and honest, um, those are the tests that Matrix presents uh, to check if we finally learned how to be harmonious when we face this energy that we didn't know how to interact with, which is karma. So now, if we would summarize everything, so we come into this body, there are things that trigger us, and in those situations we don't know how to interact with that energy. So like the way it triggered me in the beginning, rules, laws, fuck that, it's like I know better, I can do whatever I want, you know. And like it would just like activate this pride, aggression, and all types of things, right? And um, and then it keeps repeating, keeps repeating, keeps repeating. And the way karma works is through this repetition we either learn how to be fair and honest, or if we don't. And if we don't, then what happens, Matrix starts presenting, serving so-called karmic exams and punishment. So karmic exams, so in the beginning, usually the way it works, when we just start our life or our incarnation, um, Matrix presents exams where we can fail, meaning where we can make wrong choices. And I made a lot of wrong choices in the following the rules thing. Oh, I was like seeking places where I could like tweak the contracts to my advantage, you know, like not follow the laws or rules. Either it's with as simple as like driving, parking tickets, or whatever it is. And it doesn't do anything because in the beginning it's just allowing you to learn. Then people get to a place in their life where it switches, and we have instruments where we actually develop the whole graphs. And when the graph switches to karmic exams, if you don't if you haven't learned to act or behave harmoniously in those situations, then you get fucking slapped. Like that situation is presented to you, so-called opportunity or test. So we call it karmic exam. So that's a real test. And
Mm-hmm.
let's say if I would break the rules, it would be a real fucking litigation. And that litigation would take $1 million, $2 million, could bankrupt the company, and etc. And but then it gets worse. Once from karmic exam, if you haven't figured that shit out there, then it starts punishing you for all the misbehavior in the past. So if you don't pass the karmic exam and you don't adjust there, then it's like, okay, clearly you're an idiot, and we're gonna go and look back at your whole life and charge you for all that misbehavior. And then
Mm.
the way it goes, it starts with money, career, business, starts taking that away. It could go higher to health of relatives, takes that away, because the way it works, and let me finish, the third one, it takes your health away. Because by taking away money, career, business, it slows down the energy. It slows you down, so you're like ponder. And people usually start pondering, asking themselves, why am I being punished, right? And if they cannot figure it out, or they are not pondering, it's like, okay, we'll make one of your relatives sick. So you start questioning life. It's like, whoa, that person isn't like that bad or just in bad. It's like, I could be in that position. I should align myself so that I live a happy life. And if that doesn't make a person ponder, then they just shut down the person. So you're in that bad, in a sick bad. So now you cannot do anything. You cannot go continue your activities in life. So now you're pondering. So that's just a mechanic of the matrix for us. If we're not learning how to be harmonious and how to harmoniously interact, it forces by cranking the volume per se. So that's basically karma in a summary. So that's why subset of the um, situations are tests. And in the beginning, usually they are tests, because the first part of life, we're learning how to interact. And if we got to this place of harmony where we're honest, we're fair, then they become opportunities. In the beginning, to me, for me, it was weird. Like, uh, also a recent example a few weeks ago, from a previous place, they were returning a deposit, and it was like a very large deposit for an apartment. And part of the deposit they were supposed to withhold, I stayed extra time in the apartment,
Hmm.
and they were supposed to calculate it by day. That's what we agreed on, and it was February. So I divide the price of the month by 28 days, and then I tell them that's what it is. They come back and they're sending me more money. I was like, no, here are the calculations, and I should be paying you more. And it's like, I learned that I'm just going to be honest everywhere, even if it's to my disadvantage. It's not to disadvantage, because in this matrix, it's impossible to steal anything. You steal here, the matrix takes from you on another end. And that's like a separate topic that we could talk about. So I'm like just being honest with the universe, with myself. I'm being honest towards myself, because
Yeah.
like I can seemingly take extra couple hundred euros here, but I'll pay it elsewhere. And they go, no, we calculate all months based on 30 days in a month. So we're actually sending you extra money. And I was like, okay, those are your rules. I will not argue with your rules. So once again, I end up with more money, even though I'm trying to pay more money.
Yeah.
So, and that's where so-called karma became became superpower, because all karma turns into a superpower. And then universe starts serving you opportunities. It's like, in my scenario, just everybody's like giving me extra money. Like, probably if I go decide make a big purchase or something, the person will just offer a discount. It's like one of the examples, and this is that specific type of energy. But there are many types of energy. Everything from, like, let's say a woman could be struggling to get pregnant. Now they invented a bunch of technology to circumvent and whatever. But in reality, as simple as, usually there's probably karma there, or they shouldn't have a child with that partner. If it's karma, then they navigate that karma, and then they get pregnant in a second.
Mm.
And so that's basically test versus opportunity.
So a couple things I want to touch on that you brought up there. One, you said that the matrix goes into the past. Is that why sometimes you see these scandals that come out of nowhere, like whether it's, we got now it's the P. Diddy scandal, and then you got the other scandal, and it's like it'll be a scandal that it's 15, 20, 25 years later, like somehow this thing that's way in the past suddenly becomes top of mind. Is that what's going on in terms of the matrix? Why
You've
that stuff
nailed it.
suddenly bubbles?
Yeah, you've nailed it. And there is a specific type of karma where we're just doing a module with somebody. They had that karma where basically it says there specifically, even if you hide something now, it will come to the surface later unless you learn how to navigate, interact, or behave harmoniously in those situations. So in the moment, they feel clever. They think they're invincible. They can do whatever fuck they want, and it just comes to the surface. And that's one of the examples.
Mm, yeah. And the second thing for the listeners, can you define, if possible, what it means to be harmonious? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what does harmonious look like in a very practical sense
Yeah.
so that people are like, okay, I'm working with this energy and now I've harmonized it
Mm-hmm.
versus disharmony?
I'm going to add a little bit more to the previous question, and then I'm going to answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
So, also the reason things coming to the surface is because what we've touched on, I think, in our seventh episode about major global shift, we're shifting from fifth matrix to sixth matrix.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing that's holding people back from shifting into this new world or new way of being is karma. So all karma now is coming to the surface. And if once again we can even look at like rudimentary physics of this planet. So like literally over the past multiple months, more and more scientists are talking about the fact that the magnetic field of the planet is shifting and it's actually lightening up. The magnetic field of the planet, what it does, it filters the cosmic energy that's flowing through cosmos, and it does not allow a huge subset of that energy to enter to reach the surface of the planet. Now that has changed, and much more energy from the sun and from outer space is reaching the planet because the planet is increasing in vibrations.
Mm.
So karma is like those blockages in energetic channels. So now imagine is like pumping more blood through the veins, and there is a clot, major problem, right? So a bunch of people have clots that they didn't, energetic clots or knots, we also call them karmic knots or energetic knots, that they haven't worked through. There's more energies traveling through everyone. So all that is coming to the surface. And on top of that, on an individual level, and usually the way it comes to the surface on an individual level, the emotions get stronger and the reactions get stronger. And that's why we're living through this uh, we can call it chaotic world, but it's not chaotic world where all the shit possible is hitting the fan per se. On top of that, the matrix, because there's shift from fifth to sixth, it's also responding to this. It's like all the carriers of consciousness or humans are supposed to process. I shouldn't say all, there's a subset of humans that need to process this karma who are supposed to shift to the sixth matrix. Not everybody loaded here to shift to the sixth matrix. Some people will just leave out their life and their soul continues elsewhere, and that's perfectly fine. But significant chunk needs to learn to harmonize the karma so they can shift to the sixth matrix. And another critical reason why karma has to be harmonized, or we just have to learn how to interact, every individual needs to learn how to interact with specific type of energy that they're learning to interact with. My scenario is different from yours, and usually when the soul loads in, soul takes around 4 to 9 karmic lessons per se. Depending on how advanced soul is, the more advanced the soul is, the more, of course, experience it wants, and usually will take like 9 qualities it wants to develop. But on average, we see 5 to 7, let's call it. And so I gave an example of just one of mine. So if a person does not harmonize and learn how to interact harmoniously with that energy that their soul picked loading in here,
Mm-hmm.
if they somehow bypass, and I'm pretty sure there might be methods, there might be shamans, magicians, whatever you want to call them, that will switch you over to the sixth matrix. In six matrix with that karma, you basically die very rapidly, or you get into a situation that is so bad that could lead for you exiting this avatar. And the reason it's that way is fifth matrix is, we've talked about it as an advanced evolutionary school. It's designed to help people to develop new qualities, or to help souls to develop new qualities. So when we load into fifth matrix with karma, there is a buffer. It gives you so much time to fuck up, to learn, to do all types of weird shit. Whereas if you really step back and look at all the spirituality and look at the meta vector of all the spirituality, um, and not just spirituality, just our subconscious drivers. Everybody wants to be creator of their own reality. And six matrix, you become creator of your own reality with no buffer. That means what's within you is right away comes to your life. No delays, no buffer, no softening. So if, let's say, I transition to the six matrix with this breaking the laws, then the matrix allowed me to break universal law or whatever, and the situation gets so bad so fast. Let's say I'm breaking the laws. Uh, for example, drinking driving. Either I get into that's breaking a law, get into a fatal car accident, or I get stopped and I put in jail for like 10 years or even worse, right? And then the human cannot deal with that, and ultimately leads to very extreme situations. So that is why now there is a lot of everything's coming to the surface. There's a lot of pressure to do that, to harmonize karma, to navigate karma. And people always, the thing is, there's so many different practitioners or that are like, oh, we're gonna help you, clean your karma. No, there's no such thing as like cleaning your karma. There is assistance where it becomes easier for a person to understand it and make new choices. So coming back to your question, what is harmonizing karma is? The ultimate state when the same type of situation that triggered you in the past happens again, you stay in a completely peaceful state. And I'll give you in a six matrix, there's no karma, everything's positive, because to transition to six matrix, you have to be clear, and if you're not, it's really bad. And as an example, we've shifted as an experiment, we've shifted to six matrix in the beginning, and anything that was not processed in me, Maxime, came to the surface so fast. We're like, whoa! And to put it in perspective, to even shift to the six matrix, you have to be 80% process harmonized of the karma, and we can measure it. So we shifted to the six matrix with 80% harmonized. So there were like leftovers of 20. That came so fast at us with the 20 leftover. We're like, okay, fuck. We literally dropped everything and started working together to help each other to process it. And that's already barely any karma left. And by 20%, that means if situation happens, I'm more or less at peace, but there's still little back thoughts. Maybe in my scenario, let's say with that karma, the example I was giving you, maybe I can navigate the rules here, you know? Um, and that little thought in six matrix gets looped and gets so loud that you can't even have a meal because it just gets so strong. So coming back to harmonizing karma is under the easiest way. Everybody can do it intuitively because everybody can observe repeating patterns, and if they see repeating patterns in life, and they understand those repeating patterns, and they just optimize for honesty, fairness, and doing what's right, and continuously acting and being honest and fair and acting that way, that means you've harmonized your karma. And in the beginning, it will be with emotion. Like emotion can come up and you overcome your emotion and you do it. But the ultimate state, once you've done it a few times, there will be no emotion. And I'll give you an example. I told you the story. I recently got stopped for drink and driving. And I had a few beers, then I had a break, and I thought it cleared. And there's like amount of alcohol that's allowed in Montenegro, and like I'm not drunk, like I'm like driving 10 minutes, blah blah blah. But I knew there was a chance I'm breaking the rules, and I was like, maybe I should. There are other reasons why I needed to go to that experience, but I went into that experience. I get Matrix. I'll give you. It's crazy. I come up, my car is parked. The the what is it called? There is a setup by police to test people for drinking driving, but they're testing cars not in the direction I'm going to. So they're like 300 meters away down the road. I pull out and I go the other direction because that's where my home is. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm fine. And I'm driving, and like 5 minutes later, there's a car with sirens chasing. I thought they're driving somewhere. No, they're coming after me. So Matrix created this. They literally packed up their whole post to go after me. And they stopped me and they were like, have you been drinking? And I was like, yes. I was like, okay, we have to run a test. They run a test. I'm slightly above the allowed amount. And my response is, first of all, this is an example of harmonized karma. I'm not stressed out. I'm 100% at peace. Not trying to argue. I'm not trying to negotiate. I'm at so much peace. And I goes like, I'm really sorry. It is my bad. I broke the rules. And it's like, and I was like, I'm sorry that you had to pack up and chase me and blah, blah, blah. Let me know what needs to be done. Blah. And they start filling out the procedures, doing whatever. And to them, it was almost, what is it called? It was super confusing because I was at so much peace. They thought I'm on drugs. The guy, the boss shows up and goes, it's like, you're clearly on drugs. I was like, no, I had a couple of beers. I had a few beers, a while, like already some time ago. And I was like, no, you're on drugs, and like we're gonna test you. I was like, do whatever you have to do. I was like, I'm here. I know I broke the rules. It's my bad. I should have taken taxi, or I should have waited longer for it to clear for me to go below the amount, and etc. It's my bad, and I apologize. And like I'm ready to go through your full procedure and etc. And he's like literally brings out drug test, and it's like sealed. I guess it's expensive. He looks at me, and I'm being very straight up, and to him it's super confusing that I don't argue. Well, they were also been trying to ask for bribes. I'm not giving bribes because that's breaking rules. And they're like, literally, I thought one guy had like a very something wrong with his eyes. Like he kept blinking at me. First, I thought it was just something is in his eye. And then he started becoming so obvious that they wanted just a bribe. We're in like somewhat, let's call it Eastern Europe here, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I was
yeah,
like, no, I'm gonna follow the procedure. That's another place where I could have just like easily gave him 50 and he would let me go,
yeah.
right? I was like, no, I broke the rules. We're gonna follow the rules, and they get fucking frustrated. So he's trying to test me for drugs because he thinks maybe I'm so calm and I'm trying to follow the rules. Clearly, I'm crazy, right? Something is off. And then he's like, "Oh, screw this," and he doesn't open the test, right? And then it's so hilarious. Then the guy goes, "So you're okay to go home?" Because clearly I'm sober, right? And I was like, no, I'm not okay. You pulled me over. I'm over your limit. I broke the rules. I should be taking taxi. Oh, he's like, oh, that's right. That's right. So this is the hilarious situation. And there are other things that I needed to navigate in that situation, not karma related. But
Mm-hmm.
the karma part, I was completely at peace. There was no trigger, and it confused the fuck out of the guys, and I was like, I took full responsibility. It's like I broke the rules. It's my issue. I'm willing to do whatever is necessary. I had to go to the court and then pay the fine, and I've done all that. And it's like, and it's funny, I show up at the court. I guess maybe it traveled, that like I was just accepting anything. The judge goes right away, the minimum fine we have, just pay the minimum fine. I was like, and when I even entered the court, I was like, I apologize, it's my mistake, blah blah blah. And I was like, he's like, here's the minimum fine. So yeah, so harmonious, reaching level of where the karma is fully harmonized is where you at that peace, and you don't even have a back thought to do something dishonestly or unfair or etc. It's just your way of operating. And it's a spectrum, as I mentioned. Like you can have 50% of karma processed, where, let's say, if you have 50% of karma processed, you'll get the emotion, but you'll be able to manage it. And you'll probably make the right choice if you're aware of your karma. But it will be harder because there will be emotion. It's like, like this is frustrating me. So you got to overcome your emotion. And then ultimately you get to a place where it's just that's how you operate.
So when we're thinking about rules, because I know you mentioned, well, we've got the fundamental universal laws, and then we have
Yeah.
obviously laws that are given by society, by the state. Can you touch on that for a second? Like how does it work, and what is the purpose of, just a clear example, right? Like we have Montenegro here, like you're allowed like a specific amount of
Yeah.
alcohol. Like in the US, I remember it was more alcohol. Like where I was
Yeah.
living in Czech Republic, it's zero. Like
Well,
you
Canada
what
became zero tolerance, for example.
yeah.
Yeah.
And why are there such differences between countries or between nations when it comes to rules if matrix is a completely universal construct?
Matrix is universal construct, but you have to remember the matrix. The best analogy would be Matrix is like Los Angeles, and it has many movie studio and many movie sets where everybody can learn different experience. So the more movie sets you have, the wider diversity of experiences humans or carriers of consciousness can have to actually learn how to harmonize their karma. And so, for example, uh, universal law number one, protect life and life's evolution. If somebody's not learning that, the matrix will create a situation where they'll end up in a war, either as a soldier or as randomly ending up there, like going somewhere for vacation. And like what has just unfolded in India and Pakistan, there's like at some
Oh
resort
yeah.
or something, right? People were just at resort, and out of nowhere there was like a terrorist attack. And that's what matrix is just many different movie sets, and some of them are very extreme. And people who are not learning the lessons, matrix will create a path for them to end up in that extreme movie set. And you don't even need to go far, right? Like you don't need to end up in India and Pakistan. You can be just driving through LA, and people will start shooting at at your car because there's a gang war or something happening, right? So that's why there's so many different. Like at the end of the day, the more we connect with the soul and spirit, the more everything becomes about universal laws. And then you have all these laws that were created. And some laws are actually against universal laws. But it's once again to create a unique set for a person to distinguish. It's like, wow, this does not feel right.
Can
And
you give me an example of that, where laws are against universal laws?
um, I'll give you an example of a situation. So, and that's an example, Maxim's example, because he served in Russian police, right? And
Hmm.
he faced a situation where he was in a Russian DA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and they were capturing this major drug dealer. And that drug dealer somehow was aware, got tipped off or something that like they're coming after him. So they're like broke into his apartment, and the way he set it up, it was like basically everything was like uh, all the evidence was showing that is like uh, it was his wife's, and his wife is like the most like like pure person with a kid ended up in this situation, also for a reason, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, and based on the evidence, that the way evidence was structured, according to the law, wife is supposed to go to prison, not this drug dealer.
Got
You
it.
see what I mean? And of course there is a karmic lesson for her there as well. But seeing through, like, if somebody just decides as an enforcer to blindly follow the laws, she goes to jail, he goes free. And we see those situations happen many times, right, around us. Whereas you would have to do extra work and dig in to actually prove that those were his drugs. And Maxime had to do this extra work to find a way to use the laws, still use the laws, to actually bring justice to the situation. So that's, and the thing is now, now the governments are got so distorted that they are, well, another great example is coming up, what's happening in UK. You express your opinion online, that you disagree with this, I don't know, with this politician, with this race, with this blah blah blah, with this religion, 2 years in prison. Where somebody who like raped a child gets 6 months probation. Is
Did you
this?
just see the thing with Starmer? I saw it just today, in fact. So this
Uh-huh.
is real current. That now he made a statement saying that immigrants need to speak English, and of course everybody said, "Well, shouldn't you be doing a couple of years in prison for that statement now, Mister Starmer?" Right?
Here
Because
you go, right?
literally, what he's throwing people into prison for is now what he just
What he just
said,
did
and of
himself.
course one rule for thee, one rule for me, right?
Yeah. So that's an example of now things are going into such a crazy, there's in such a crazy place that now is almost subset of new laws or subset of interpretation of laws leads to injustice per se,
Mm-hmm.
or breaking universal laws. But at the end of the day, if we really look under the covers, there's no injustice, because that person who ends up in jail for 2 years for tweet probably did something karmic many times leading up to that, and that's how the matrix is punishing them. Do you see what I mean? In a
Mm-hmm.
moment, if we look at just a very narrow context, then it's like, oh, this person is a victim. In this matrix, nobody's a victim. And this whole concept right now of everybody being victimized for one or the other reason is the biggest bullshit ever. Because matrix is fair. And by the way matrix works, let's say I could have been breaking the rules all this time along and not learned the lesson. And then I could have been driving in Montenegro, 100% sober, 100% not breaking any rules, stopped. They throw a bag of Coke or something in my car that's like a Eastern European method, right?
Yeah.
And send me into the jail and ask for whatever, 100 grand. And, but those are seemingly like I was driving according to the speed limit, all the rules, not drunk, blah, blah, blah. But because I've done a bunch of things leading up to that, it seems like completely unrelated, but super related. It seems
Mm.
like injustice was served against me, but that's just a matrix's extreme version of giving me exam or finally coming to collect for all my misbehavior.
So we could say then, in some fashion, that Matrix is almost like the ultimate scale, in a sense, where
Yes.
it's always seeking balance.
Um, it's not seeking balance, it's seeking a carrier of consciousness completing their incarnation program or their what they came to do here.
Mm.
And that's what its job, that's what it's enforcing, that's how it's programmed. And what's interesting is, so when the soul loads, we load with the Incarnation program. If we strip apart what is Incarnation program, it's like, as I mentioned, on average 5 to 7 karmic lessons, which is us learning to interact with energy that we don't know how to interact with, or the soul doesn't know how to interact with. There is purpose, and there are subsets of purpose, which are objectives, because we're supposed to do something. Soul already developed qualities, and it needs to use them to bring something valuable for this world, because by loading in here, you gotta pay for being here. Hence, you have to create value for this matrix by creating inventions, or just like I don't know, being a musician, or whatever your purpose is here, right? So those are all different parts of the Incarnation program. And if we zoom out, there is around 9.8 million Incarnation programs. And in a previous episode, we touched on saints. Um, so the way this matrix was designed, uh, the architects, advanced souls that designed this matrix, looked at the whole universe and gathered incarnations of saints, or uh, incarnations where people made the biggest evolutionary progress and created these programs. So, hence, our incarnation program with our karma is actually a life path of some kind of saint, or somebody or soul that incarnated somewhere and showed the best result. By denying it, we're denying us becoming saint, or us actually growing and evolving the most, becoming the most powerful, the happiest, the most advanced, and etc. So it's pretty hilarious that people are trying to, and it's funny, you suggested the name Enter the Matrix.
Yeah.
So many people trying to break out the Matrix, fight the Matrix, blah blah blah. The only thing the Matrix is doing, the soul came here with this one of the, let's call it, close to 10 million programs that is like handpicked out of the whole universe as being as one of the best path to develop the qualities that the soul has not developed yet, and we're rejecting it. We're like, fuck this, we're no better. And like we keep resisting. In reality, if we just align, we're aligning with the most effective path. And the matrix's job is to keep realigning us. And the fifth matrix, which was basically Advanced Evolutionary School, was soft and gave a lot of buffering and gave a lot of chances. Sixth matrix is not evolutionary school. It will all be about advanced souls creating new life, new materials, new technologies, blah, blah, blah. There's no karma there. There's just everybody is in harmony already. So if somebody manages to flip over to the six with the karma, they rapidly create their reality, which is basically filled with their karma, to a very extreme. So matrix is the key part of matrix is basically to keep realigning the person so they learn. And if we just accept that we're learning here, then things become easier. It's like you've created this habit already, right? Asking yourself when something what happens, it's like, what am I supposed to learn here?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it
And I
becomes so
ask
much
it often
easier.
because some shit happens where you're like, where's this coming from? And immediately my brain shifts to that thought. Okay, what is the lesson? And that's why sometimes I'm like, Nikolai, what is the lesson? Because I don't even know. I'm just aware, at
Yeah.
least, that it's trying to say something to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's what basically Matrix, the fifth version of Matrix, does. And like exceptionally well. And a lot of people cannot fully connect all the dots, like the example I gave you. A person could have been screwing up the whole life, and then they get caught somewhere else unrelated, and they didn't even commit the crime. Like that woman didn't end up in that situation randomly. She needed to experience the edge of being basically going to prison for a long time. Luckily, there was my business partner in place where she got a very good scare, but ultimately he took the process. He did to run the process so well where he actually put in jail the person who is actually responsible for it. But
Mm.
everybody got their part, right? But it could have
Yeah.
been if she needed it to end up in jail, could have been another person, right, in that situation. And she seemingly didn't do anything. She was just like, uh, happened to date a drug dealer.
Yep.
Yeah. And he hid stuff in her apartment. And like without even her knowing.
Yeah. Makes sense. So something I wanted to touch on, because let's look at all the people that have, incarnated in this fifth matrix at the moment.
Yeah.
And we can assume, maybe rightly or wrongly, you can touch on this, that they all have some sort of karmic issues at play.
Everybody.
Everybody. Okay, so we're on board.
It's
Everybody has.
it's a requirement. Like also, I'll quickly add an important thing here. Even super advanced souls, like for example, like I don't know, Buddha, Jesus, and etc. Right? Some advanced souls, but even more advanced souls than those souls, when they load here, the requirement is to have karma. Even if you per se don't have karma from this planet, meaning you haven't fucked up previously in previous lives, because people think it's just the fuck ups from previous lives or from this life. No, the soul can choose, oh, I don't fully know how to interact with this energy. So I'm going to pick it as karma in this incarnation program. So we load here and we get triggered by this energy. And if we look at past lives or this life, we've never fucked up, meaning we've never earned karma. People only think that we can only earn karma. No, the soul can pick it as a point of growth. That's it. So it's mandatory for everyone, for anyone who loads into fifth matrix, to have karma.
Okay, so now that we have that baseline as every single person loading into this fifth matrix has karma, then what is it that then allows people to have the understanding that they have to deal with this stuff? Like, do people just feel suddenly that they have karmic issues and that they need to play this out in order to get to the sixth matrix? Or is it that people just never even touch on their karmic issues? I mean, what would even let them know, or what would let them have some sort of conscious awareness that they had karma, that it needs to be fixed? Does Matrix send you a type of awareness where inside your brain you are ruminating, like, I wonder if this is something karmic, or is it just sending you a download of, why does this keep happening? Can you speak about how people might learn or discover that they have karmic issues so that they have even the opportunity to deal with them and to move on towards the sixth matrix?
Yeah, so right now we are describing this whole process of evolution on this planet in very technical terms. And the reason we are able to do this is because this planet is going through a shift from fifth to sixth matrix. And a subset of the souls need this knowledge to clear and complete their incarnation program and their karmic load in a very short period of time. So, like for Atman, our slogan is accelerating evolution. So this incarnation program is designed on average for around 80 years. So people load in, and that used to be designed for 80 years. Now everything accelerated and shifting. Subset of souls need to shift to the sixth matrix. Hence, that program that was designed for 80 years now needs to be condensed to a matter of like a year. And like with this knowledge that we're sharing and discussing here, and with instruments we have, is like karma can be processed in a matter of like the fastest we've seen, like I don't know, probably like few months. You don't need to work on this 80 years. But so for a subset of souls, there are two ways we can talk about it. Either pre this situation where everything needs to get accelerated, so let's say a few hundred years ago, if you load in, everybody has karma, or for the souls that are just leaving out their incarnation program, they don't need this technical knowledge because they have 80 years, and the situations repeat, right? And subconsciously, humans are motivated to make their life happy and comfortable. If they get triggered consistently, right? They want to do something so that they can maintain comfort and happiness and peace. So that's how they intuitively process their karma. So somebody will notice, oh, every time I'm interacting with kids, they trigger the fuck out of me, right? And so people first avoid kids per se. Then the matrix might present a situation where they fall in love with a woman, let's say it's a man, who has already a kid. There's no way avoiding the kids. So it keeps pushing them harder and harder. They're like, fine, I'm going to go see a therapist. Or I'm going to go watch YouTube videos how to interact with kids, right? So when that is stretched out on average over 80 years, and it repeats many times, sooner there is a point where a person either gets fed up, or if they don't, then the matrix does what I described. Takes away your money, career, business, number one. Takes the second level of intensity, takes away health of relatives. And the craziest level, or the most intense level, is take away your health, because then you're forced to ponder and reflect where you were not behaving in harmony with the environment. You were not honest with yourself, you're not honest with others, and etc. So that's the natural organic process. But now we're in a very unique situation where everything accelerated. Hence, for people like yourself, myself, we really needed those instruments that to navigate this. And by having the knowledge, we basically can just deal with it very rapidly.
Yeah, like even looking through my own journey, like when I went down the rabbit hole of NLP and then the shamanic plant medicines and everything that's led up to this moment right now, like there's always been this. I don't know if it's subconscious or unconscious, like sense of, okay, I got to find out more about this, or just these different opportunities. Again, opportunities versus tests being presented, right? Like
Yep.
it's again like you and
And you
me
keep
meeting.
seeking for solutions. Like there are parts of life that like Matrix was not making those parts pleasant. So you're like, okay, how do I resolve this? And besides that, you were like, okay, and I also need, like there was intuitive feeling. I need to grow, I need to learn, right?
Yeah.
Those combined, we're having this conversation where there's a structured way to just process, navigate karma. And like I have a friend who will be listening to this podcast, who often he's a businessman, and like it's funny when we talk, it's like, oh, we need to identify audience for this podcast, and like where it can be promoted so more people hear this podcast and etc. And I mentioned to him multiple times, it's like whoever needs to hear this podcast will somehow find it, randomly bump into it, or will be talking with a friend, and the friend will tell them, "Hey, go listen to this," because there are people who need this information, and they're seeking this information because they're supposed to go through this transition, through this global shift that's happening, and to navigate the shift they'll need those instruments. The beauty is that those instruments becoming more and more available. Like we're constantly monitoring per se the market, and more people are actually finally talking about karma in a constructive way. They're talking about it in a way where it can actually be dealt with. And where what I already touched on is anybody comes to you and they say, we'll burn your karma, or we'll get rid of it for you, and etc. Run. The only way it can be navigated is like we burn karma, but our process is we first explain all karma to you, and that takes, as you know, like
Yeah.
I don't know how many sessions, 2-3 hour, like four
Yeah.
to
Easy.
seven 2-3 hour sessions. And then we're like, do you understand your karma? And you say yes. Then we remove karmic load, and then the matrix presents you still with the situations to test you if you actually fucking understood it. So like we can help you soften the process, and give you the GPS how to navigate it, rather than being blindfolded, walking in like among the trees and hitting your forehead on every tree or on every branch sticking out, and can assist you through the journey, right? In the situation where you might get overwhelmed, but it's still on person to do the work, because what harmonized karma is harmonized worldview and world attitude, meaning you don't get triggered, and then you make a choice that is fair, honest, and aligned with universal laws or rules or whatever it is, right?
I like that. And I like what you brought up just to kind of close this up, because I never thought of it in this terminology. And it was the price of living. Like it's the
Yeah,
price we pay for being here.
yeah,
And I never really, in terms of like that, creating is the price. And it's like, you think about how often I know it's been bandied around where, for example, you'll have kids that look at their parents like, I didn't ask to be born here. Fuck you. Like, well, I didn't want to be. No, you did.
yeah,
Like, and your admission price is getting your shit together. I
yeah.
never really thought of it until just this moment that that's the price.
And if we double click on that, it's the lineup of souls that wanted to come to this planet at this time is insane. It's like a winning a jackpot, because planet is going through a very unique transition where loading into a body here, it's like if we compare it to going to school, where in one life you can, or in one class you can like skip 5 grades or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the situation on the planet. But at the same time, it's very fucking challenging. And that's why so many people are pulling hair on their head and going bald and etc. It's like, what the fuck is going on? What a mess and chaos. So the people who can navigate and like walk in a dark room and still maintain their light and expand the light basically get major upgrade. So in the first place, coming back, major line to incarnate here. Once you incarnate here, in a fifth matrix, matrix gives you energy for this life, and ultimately bringing everything back to becoming saint, as religious people say.
Mm-hmm.
Being saint is meaning becoming the source of energy. Now you have your own source of light within you that is powering the matrix. So in the beginning, like there's a bunch of investments made, like Spirit is making an energetic investment, and Matrix is like, okay, I'll accept this soul. Now it's correcting you. And the price we pay in the beginning, I was like, hey, at least do your studies, work on karma, complete your objective, align with your purpose, like create something for this matrix that you were supposed to create. If you load it in and the purpose or objective of a person was be an engineer creating technologies, create technologies. Don't be a banker on Wall Street, right? So that is the price we pay. But ultimately, the ultimate price is to become an energy source where and that happens when we fully complete the incarnation program and align with our purpose. Then we start shining as a bulb with our own energy source. And that what happens. Rather than Matrix trying to course correct you and whatever, Matrix supports you to the extreme way. Like right now, what I'm experiencing is that it's like anywhere I go, I get discounts or people trying to hand me money. And it's like, as another extreme example, you could walk in a forest with grizzly bears. And if you're aligned in a purpose, basically you've shifted from, we also call it horizontal experience to vertical experience. Horizontal experience is your incarnation program. Vertical experience, you're aligned with your purpose. So you're
Mm-hmm.
now, you've done everything you were supposed to do, and you're integrated into the processes of universe, and you're bringing light to this sector of universe. You end up with grizzly bears in a forest. They won't touch you because Matrix is protecting you on every level, because you're now energy source. You're channeling light to this sector of the universe. And in the beginning, as we've chatted about this, is like there's a price we gotta pay for winning a ticket to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. So in other words, if we've come to this section of the matrix, yeah, got to pay up.
Yeah,
There's no
and
other way
we
around
should
it.
consider we're lucky. It's
Yeah.
like everybody's complaining, everybody's a victim today. We're lucky. Like once, and it's hard to have this feeling that we're lucky when it seems like the whole world is going to shit, especially now everything is accelerating. And that, by the way,
Mm.
the reason we're experiencing this is because this transitioning is happening, and we've touched on this in a seventh
Yeah.
episode that like old systems are breaking, and that's why everything from like tariff war to crazy laws to regional conflicts to regional climatic events where, I don't know, like crops freeze. Like in Turkey recently, everything was covered in ice. Or I think it was like also just in what is it, Valencia in Spain. And you seen this? This is like May should be plus 30, and it's all like covered in snow, and there's like floods, and there's like insanity, right? So there's
Yep.
just a bunch of shifts are happening, and people like feel like fuck, it's chaos. And the worst thing anybody can do is be a victim in any aspect of their life. If you catch yourself being a victim in any aspect of your life, flip it and ask yourself, like, first of all, I'm grateful being here. I'm in a very unique situation on this planet where I literally can, like, people can achieve here anything and everything. But the key is asking is like, what am I supposed to learn in this situation? Why am I in this situation? And luckily, there's more and more knowledge being shared by us, by others, and etc. The knowledge is becoming more readily available. So when the mind has the knowledge, it is easier to walk through this per se chaos, but it's not chaos. It's a very structured process that's being maintained by many advanced souls. But to a human mind, it's super fucking scary because the shifts and transformations are so drastic and becoming so fast. So just ask yourself, why am I here? What can I learn? And ask universe to bring you the knowledge and the tools to navigate this, and you'll get the right people around you. You'll get the right YouTube videos popping up, the right books in your hands to help you navigate whatever you're facing.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it off, because that is the homework for everybody. Think about all the different things that are being presented to you and ask yourself, well, yeah, what is the lesson I have to learn about this?
And the
Easy.
beauty, as people learn those, lessons that are presented to them, the life gets better, because everything that first is perceived as punishment, right, turns into a superpower and turns into a gift from Matrix. Because once you flip that in harmonious energy to harmonious, Matrix starts serving you gifts. So don't get stuck and harmonize yourself, work on yourself, and your life only will get happier, meaning the person will have, everyone, those people who worked on themselves will have consistent state of happiness. And on top of that, Matrix gives gifts. So it's like, it's win, 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 win.
And I want gifts. Bring me my gifts.
Well,
All
I did
right.
my
Well,
work and your gifts will be delivered. Trust me, as
yeah,
Matrix delivers the exams, Matrix does not miss the gifts. It works like Swiss clock.
I like that. All right. Well, once again, I didn't go into any of the questions that I actually had prepared, so we'll save those for next episode.
Many more episodes to cover those. So
Yes.
we'll see everyone in the next episode.
Next
And
week.
thanks, Mitch.